This year, CASDA has a membership of 102 districts. In coming weeks, we'll tell you a little bit about where they are and who they are and how we engage with them. In addition, probably this year, CASDA will conduct somewhere between 35 and 40 face-to-face conferences in the fall, winter, spring, and summer sessions. We will have probably taken on about 80 technical assistance contracts, working with school districts in terms of coaching their leaders, working in strategic planning, doing external reviews, working in community schools. It's an infinite and really diverse list of activities. And we'll tell you a little about some of those specific projects in the weeks ahead. In addition, we'll probably coordinate about 20 college fairs across Eastern New York, which is an interesting aspect of our work. We have a couple of large grants that we work, federal and state grants that we work with to help school districts. In addition to all that activity, we engage in a variety of service activities. This spring, we will hold for the 30th time the Scholar Recognition Dinner in May. Prior to that, on April 20th, the Regional Educational Awards Dinner will be held. And we offer a variety of student service activities in terms of student leadership, working with rural schools, working with school principals, and other groups, and coordinating different kind of membership groups and helping them with their efforts. I wanted to take a moment today to talk to you a little bit about membership in CASDA. Each week I'll try to pick a different aspect of our work and briefly review it. Just some facts and figures. First of all, currently CASDA has 102 members. They're public schools, but they're also special schools like Parsons and St. Anne's Institute. They our affiliates come from 5 BOCES, Capital BOCES, Questar BOCES, Hamilton, Fulton, Montgomery, Warren, Washington BOCES, and the Herkimer BOCES, which means that our geographical spread is quite large. We go from essentially the Ulster and Dutchess County borders northward all the way into the middle of the Adirondacks to Long Lake and little tiny Putnam, which is above Whitehall on the Vermont border. We go west a considerable way towards Syracuse through all the Herkimer County schools. It's almost all the school districts in that region, in our catchment region, do participate. And there are a variety of member benefits, and I'll talk about those in a day coming up. And a word about the membership dues, which our members pay annually. It's a sliding scale based on the size of the school district. Very small schools, for example, those with under 200 in enrollment, and we do have those schools, pay only $170 per year. The sliding scale moves upward to the largest schools like Shenandoah and Schenectady, and the fee is $1,955. It's a great bargain because there are many membership benefits, and we're trying to maximize participation by certainly by keeping the fee schedule low. It has remained flat and steady for at least a half a dozen years, and to maximize our membership and their participation with us. I want to linger for a few minutes on member benefits. What is it that people get for their membership? Well, you know some of these. One is you get a reduced rate for conferences, distance learning events. As a matter of fact, it's half the rate for a conference for a member as opposed to a non-member district sending people. So that's a big benefit. Also, we provide 2 free vouchers for conferences when people renew their membership. So sometimes, they'll just cash those coupons, so to speak, and that entitles them to that would be over a $200 benefit when they use their vouchers. Other things that are in the member benefit mix include free use of the space here at the SUNY East campus.
many of you know, there's wonderful different kinds of conference venues here of different sizes. Superintendents and principals sometimes bring their faculties or their administrative teams here for retreats. That's all free. Then become CASDA events at that point. Also, because we're the field arm of the School of Education, we send research that our profs are engaged in, and some of the information about that periodically to our member leaders, and principals and superintendents, and also special opportunities for connecting with the School of Education at the University at Albany. That's a big benefit. We also provide journals a couple of times a year. Again, it's all part of our commitment to bring research to practice. Interestingly, we also provide superintendents who are members with free use of the extensive library databases at the University at Albany Library. This is a huge benefit. All the journals in our field are accessible through this free membership, and it's quite a benefit. And of course, as many of you know, as a member, personnel from member districts can always call up and ask our advice for things. We get questions about all kinds of things, like who does a really good job with literacy coaches, who's going to block scheduling, who knows, we have an assistant principal opening, who might be some good candidates. So there are a lot of benefits related to that. CASDA was incorporated in 1949, and it is governed by a constitution and a set of bylaws, which we follow and occasionally are revised. One of the stipulations in the bylaws is that there'll be an executive committee of 16 individuals, 3 from the university, and 13 superintendent representatives from our region. I want to talk a little bit about the executive committee, because they convened for the annual meeting and took certain actions. But first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about who they are. For the university, one of the ex officio members is the Dean of the School of Education. It's Dr. Bob Bangert-Drowns at the moment. And also ex officio is the chair of the Educational Administration and Policy Studies Department, Kevin Kinzer. This year, the third representative, it's usually a professor, Dan Wolf, who has been with us, a professor in biological sciences, has been with us for probably 20 or 30 years, finally stepping down. And at the annual meeting, Dr. Kristen Wilcox, known to some of you as the head of Just for the Kids New York and the Compass program, and a good partner of ours, was elected to take his place. 13 superintendents round out the group. They come from 5 BOCES. And for example, from Herkimer BOCES, we have Laura Dutton in Poland Central. From Hamilton, Fulton, Montgomery BOCES, we have Steve Tomlinson from Broad Albin, Perth, and Rob DeLilly from Johnstown City. In Warren, Washington BOCES, from that area, I have Doug Huntley from Queensbury, Mark Wicca from Johnsburg, and Jim Dexter, the BOCES superintendent at Warren, Washington. From Questar, Maria Suttmeyer, who was our vice chair and next year will be our chair, is from Hudson City Schools. Jim Hoffman, who is cycling off, is from Averill Park, and elected at the annual meeting was Cindy DeDominic, who is from Lansingburg. Others who come from Capital include, Capital BOCES include John Buhner from South Colony, Lori Kaplan from Watervliet, Marie Wiles from Guilderland, Larry Spring from Schenectady City. And that, if you think about those names and the representation of these districts, it really is a who's who of the educational leaders in our region, and we are very grateful for their efforts. In 2010, when I became executive director, we had 3 or 4 staff, but we only had 1 faculty member, and that was Nancy Andrus. Probably a year later, in 2011, maybe we had 6. A year after that, in 2012, maybe we had a dozen. Today, there are about 36 faculty who represent all kinds of specialties, and we've grouped them into a number, 5 actually, of functional teams. This was necessary because at some point, as we moved toward having a total of 50 staff and faculty, the span of control, that is what I could personally pay attention to and coordinate, really it outgrew what I could do. So over time, our organization chart changed. Associate Director Betsy Shealy works on grants and university relations, and National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. Secretary Treasurer Terry Brewer works on business and is our project manager. I work on service projects, conferences, and basic organizational development. And that was all fine and well and good, except that we had so many services that we were trying to provide that it was time really for faculty leadership to guide these without having to be controlled through a single desk. Given the experience level and the skill of our faculty, which obviously is very mature and very experienced, we realized breaking into these teams made sense. As you know, every faculty member is on at least one of these teams, and sometimes, based on expertise, they may be on more than one. So we have a curriculum and instruction team, a leadership and management team, a climate, culture, and community team, a data and analysis team, and a struggling learners team. We have the intent was that to set them to work on and develop a number of important to set them to work on projects that really needed to be done. One was to describe all the services that they were willing and able to provide to schools, and that's an ongoing effort that we're nearing its conclusion. We then asked the teams to think about how they could pool or archive their materials so that we didn't have to constantly reinvent the wheel when we went out to school districts, but really could tap into those materials that have been prepared by other faculty members. And so that archiving project is ongoing. The group I'd like to talk about today is the Climate, Culture, and Community Committee. Think of it this way. This group would probably, its work would be closely aligned with pupil personnel services. That is, people in schools such as nurses, counselors, attendance officers, social workers, and school psychologists. And it really looks at the physical, social, and emotional well-being of students and how that well-being contributes to student outcomes and to student success. It's chaired by Becky Gardner and Sherry Keller, and a number of faculty have interest in this area. It's broken into its work is broken into 3 clusters. One is working on classroom and school environment projects. Second of all, looking at health and wellness and safety issues. And then thirdly, looking at student engagement. So let's start with working on classroom and school environment. We approach this work, we have in a number of different ways. For example, Jen Bouchant and Sherry Keller are trained in the collaborative problem-solving model, which reduces challenging behavior. We've put on multiple conferences on this, and they're very well attended. We've done a number of contracts with schools, such as in Cohoes and Schenectady and Cambridge, where schools really want to learn how to reduce challenging behavior. Also, over time, we've helped with modification of discipline codes in places like Amsterdam and in Hackett Middle School. We have, in this cluster of improving the classroom and school environment, we've convened homeless coordinators, we've coached alternative educators, and with student demographics changing and poverty among children increasing, this team has been exploring the impact of poverty on school success for kids. We've featured conferences for the growth in suburban poverty, and interestingly, we've trained ourselves on being able to present and facilitate poverty simulations, which immerse participants in the lives of students and families in poverty. Additionally, we work extensively in the area of community schools. As some of you know, this is an important and growing area. It's one where we try to minister to the whole child by bringing in social services and health organizations to help schools work with all aspects of childhood. We work extensively in this area with the University of Albany, with the Children Aid Society in New York City. We've held conferences. We work with community schools in Albany and in Schenectady, and have learned a great deal about this, and have actually hosted an international scholar, Alan Dyson, back in April, as you may remember, on this topic. In the area of health and wellness, we do a number of things. We're very interested in mental health in schools. We held a very successful conference in April, looking at adverse childhood, the impact of adverse child trauma on later school life for children. And we will begin to bring that program from a general conference and begin to bring it to the schools for individual contracts. We have sponsored school safety series of various types, helped schools think through how they would transition kids who are returning to school after episodes away. We've sponsored, under Bob Stuhlmaker's leadership, we've sponsored conferences on CPR, heroin abuse, concussions. We have one coming up in July on Lyme disease and its impacts. So we do a lot in this area of health and wellness. Finally, this group team has expertise in the area of student engagement. There was much of the team participated in and contributed to a 3-part series on student engagement back in March, where we examined cognitive, behavioral, and emotional aspects of that have an effect on student engagement, which really makes a big difference in student success. So as you can see, this is a very busy team. It's got a big mission, just like all the other teams. I decided we would take a few minutes to look at the Struggling Learner team. This is headed by Diane Albano and Pam Roberge as co-chairs. Diane, a longtime special ed administrator and assistant superintendent for curriculum, has deep expertise in all areas of special ed structure and classroom instruction. And Pam Roberge retired recently as a New York State CSIS, or a special education state liaison helping school districts. So they're uniquely qualified to kind of guide this team, which is assembled of a number of different people who really have tremendous expertise. So the kinds of work that this team does really centers on the kind of students who struggle or have some barriers to their learning which they need to overcome. These could include special education students, English language learners, or students who struggle and have fallen behind and need remedial work. It's a very important mission, and one that we're really well qualified to carry out. The work on this team breaks into 2 parts. One is looking at the structure or the institution itself, and second of all, looking at the classroom level and instruction there. So let's start with the institutional level. We provide special education service reviews. We can go in, do evaluations and audits, stem to stern of a pre-K to 12 system for special education. This is a really important role, looking for the continuum of services and all the different facets that are concerned in building that. We have done these kind of efforts, K-12, for Albany City, Gloversville, Hudson Falls, Middleburg, and recently finished a very comprehensive review for South Colony. And it's a great service. We also look at the structure for RTI and AIS support. Sherry Dickinson, for example, has been working out in Oppenheim at Freda, St. Johnsville on this for a couple of years, and that's very helpful. But then we turn our attention to, and this summer, we will be holding a major effort, kicking off a major effort for the directors of special education, and having a two-day institute called Beyond the Regulations, which Diane and Pam and other members of this team will be hosting. So let's look at the classroom strategies and the classroom level. We do a number of different things there. One is, for example, we do conferences and workshops for special education paraprofessionals. We sponsored a conference this recent spring with Christy Sadler from School of Education, for example, on that subject. We do data analysis for struggling learners. Bill Haldeman, Pam Roberge work with that in a number of districts. Tom McKee is involved in thinking through instructional and assistive technology with school districts such as Mechanicville and Bethlehem and Schenectady. We work on instructional methodology and co-teaching strategies, and we've done that in Northville, Wildwood, Lansingburg, Mayfield, and Schenectady just this past year. And in the road immediately ahead, we will begin to ramp up our English language learners, or English as new language program. We will probably start with a conference and then begin to develop services around this important and emerging topic in our region. And so I hope that's helpful, give you a little sense to struggling learners. Today, though, I'd like to talk about a third of our 5 teams, the curriculum and instruction team. This is co-chaired by Nancy Andrus and Betsy Smith, and is a very, very active team, just like they all are. Basically, the curriculum instruction team's work breaks down into 3 topics. The first is curriculum development. We have historically been one of the key providers in the region of curriculum audits and curriculum mapping, and more recently, alignment of instruction to the Common Core. We do this in a variety of ways, but you will see it where we enter a relationship with a district long-term, the way Nancy Andrus and Sue Tangor work with Amsterdam throughout the year. Diane Obano worked with Middleburg, and you can see that. Now, the second of the topics is what we called professional practices. Here, we look at things like teacher leadership and co-teaching. We look at cooperative learning and differentiated instruction, the development of professional learning communities, SMART goal setting, and the like. And there's so much that we do here. For example, we work with the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards here. Betsy Smith is our liaison. A key focus here is teacher leadership. With co-teaching, Betsy Smith has worked with Lansingburg, Deb Shea's worked with Mayfield, and so we see a lot on that front as well. Differentiated instruction, Sherry Keller and Claudia Virgo have worked extensively with Albany schools this year related to that. Professional learning community development, that spans the gamut from Betsy Smith working with Wildwood schools and Nancy working with the East Greenbush elementary schools, to Jerry Steele working throughout Washington County at the Washington County Collaborative on the development of PLCs. With SMART goal development, Susan Tangor has worked with the Albany Diocese to help their schools related to SMART goal development. The third of the areas that this team delves into is instructional growth. Data-driven instruction, for example. This is where the crossover with the data team is really comes into play. There's going to be a DDI conference on July 12th. Bill Haldeman, Pam Roberge, taking the lead on that. But they've also worked with Mayfield, Gouverneur, Hadley, Skodak, North Colony, and the like on data-driven instruction. In terms of instruction itself, we work in each of the areas. Dave Arnone works with CTE. Bob Stuhlmaker's worked on PE. Suzanne Buell has worked with elementary math in the Schenectady schools. Casey Jakubowski working with social studies and summer workshops in Hudson when Nancy Andrus has worked over the years with that. Literacy development, Deb Shea has worked with Troy and Betsy Smith with Schenectady. Compass, we're going to be holding an elementary team Compass program on July 19 and 20 here with the university folks. So, and not last but not least, assistive technology. Tom McKee has worked with Bethlehem and Mechanicville and Schenectady to help them infuse technology into their instruction. As you can see, I could go on and on. It's a busy team. Instruction is the heart of the matter, and we very much applaud what this team has done and continues to do.
With that, let's turn our attention to the fourth of our 5 functional service teams, this one, leadership and management. This group is chaired by Jerry Steele, and as you can see from the sheet that we'll scroll on the screen, their work is broken into three buckets, so to speak. One is leadership development for individuals and for teams. Second of all, strategic planning for the system as a whole. And thirdly, what we call systems implementation and program sustainability, which really uses systems thinking and systemic action. So let's go back to and consider leadership development and the forms that it takes. First, coaching and mentoring. This is a big part of our work. An example of that work is, for example, a major contract with the Albany City Schools, where we work with the first, second, and third year administrators. We've matched up about a dozen of these younger administrators with about a dozen of our faculty. And it's very useful, and we'll be continuing this for another 2 years. We do this for individual and smaller districts as well, like Greenville and Voorheesville and Burn Knox, and so it's a big part of our work. Second of all, in addition to working with the individual leaders, we engage in K-12 leadership team development. For example, we have Becky Gardner and I work with Albany High School, the administrators, to develop coherence there. I've done book studies in Fonda Fultonville with their leadership team. We've worked with Greenville, we've worked with Aniora, and Betsy Smith and I had the opportunity last summer to actually conduct this a retreat for all the superintendents in the capital BOCES. It's a good example of team development. And this summer, for example, we'll be hosting Nancy Andrus, who works with the Principal Center Board, and Susan Tangor will be sponsoring a summer Principals Academy on August 3rd. So, in addition, we work with the Board of Education on developing their leadership. We've worked with places as far-flung as Newburgh, Roundout Valley, Fort Plain, Salmon River, and the like. We help teacher with teacher leadership. Good example of that is Doug Kelly, Mike Scambarelli working with Chalmont to develop their shared decision-making model. In strategic planning, for example, we work with strategic plan development in Lake George. Deb Shea, Janice White have worked on that. Salmon River, Lee Bordick and Greg Idala. Fort Plain, Nancy Andrus and Terry Brewer. Minerva,
Diane Albano and Terry Brewer. So we do a lot of that as well. Outside educational expert services, those who chair these diagnostic tool reviews for low performing schools. Jerry Steele has worked in Troy, Diane Albano in Northville, Nancy Anderson in Amsterdam, Sherry Keller in small Wheelerville, and large Kingston. This is a very important part of our work as well. Compass. We've mentioned Compass before. We're going to end up doing, we have a big conference coming up on July 18 and 19 for elementary programs. Systems implementation, the development of regional sharing among small districts. Jerry Steele has developed to a high degree the Washington County Collaborative, and we took those concepts, and on the other side of Warren Washington BOCES, Doug Kelly and Jerry are working to develop a collaborative of very small districts in the Adirondacks that style themselves as True North. Professional learning communities. Becky Gardner, Betsy Smith, chair the highly successful Principals Guild PLC. And in addition, Bob Stuhlmaker with the AD Roundtable, a good example of these PLCs. We will probably begin these next year with technology coordinators and English language learner coordinators, so we're excited about these as well. We do a variety of other things, very specialized things, such as helping people be better master schedulers, looking at enrollment forecasting, and the like. So I've gone over my time, but that's because there's so much going on in that team. Today, I'd like to provide a little bit of information about another one of our standing functional teams, namely the data and research team. As we all know, the power that technology has brought us in recent years has permitted schools to collect all kinds of data at the district, the building, and the classroom level, and the individual student level. And schools and districts are really, in a sense, awash in data. Their first responsibility is to report data accurately upward to the state education department. But it's extremely important and useful in making decisions so that people not only report it upward, but then use it to analyze it and then to make decisions afterwards. We work in CASDA on all these levels. Jennifer Bashad, our research director, has worked with the Schenectady City Schools, evaluating the effectiveness of our interventions in the elementary schools there. So to be able to demonstrate to for example, in a federal grant, how these initiatives have made a difference. Increasingly, that's really important to be able to demonstrate improvement and student achievement at the federal and state level. Ken Chaffee, former Chief Information Officer in Albany City Schools, has helped a number of school districts to improve their data. At the classroom level, Bill Haldeman, Pam Roberge have worked very hard on a number of contracts with a number of school districts to help them to analyze test results and then to look at areas of deficit so that teachers can improve their instructional practice and help students who are evidencing gaps. That work started out in ELA. It's been extended thanks to the help of Suzanne Buell and Doreen Mitchell, to the area of mathematics. And we're very excited about that. Both Bill and Pam have held very successful conferences, the summer data jams, and which are well attended, well regarded. And recently, Pam Roberge connected, Bill and Pam, connected with Dr. Katie Schiller from the University at Albany, who was really intrigued with the caliber and the quality of their work. And we're now actually part of UAlbany's research work, they having recently presented with Pam at the American Educational Research Association annual meeting. So this is a very active committee. its charge is really important, and it will only continue to grow.
Today, I want to begin to talk about a really important part of our work, which are our technical assistance projects. A long time ago, the State Education Department not only told schools what to do, but they also provided technical assistance in helping schools and districts to meet any new requirements. Well, as most of you know, state ed has gone out of that business over time. BOCES does some of it, but there is a huge need for technical assistance to help leaders and teachers throughout the region as they cope with changing circumstances, changing demographics, new state mandates, and the like. We have grown to the point where this is a significant part of our revenue stream, but most importantly, it's a great help to these districts. This year we will have 90 contracts that vary in size from basically one-shot, one-time events to large projects that run. We might enter a relationship for 3 years and in a multifaceted way with other districts. So they vary. Sometimes one faculty member's involved, other times a large collaborative team works over time on these. We have contracts with all the urban systems, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Amsterdam, Hudson, and the like. We also provide services to suburban districts, North Colony, South Colony, Guilderland, and so on. And in addition, rural schools. We are in Oppenheim, Ephrata, St. Johnsville, Wheelerville, and Long Lake up north. And so we provide opportunities for all our members. We offer a variety of services, and if you go on our website, you can actually see when you click on the banner on the bar along the top, you'll see services, and if you click on that, you will see that our services, those that we indicate that we can provide, are broken into 5 service areas, which correspond to our 5 functional teams, as you know. We have curriculum and instruction, leadership and management, data and analysis, climate, culture, and community, as well as the struggling learners team. We do a wide variety of work. We specialize in external audits and reviews that are needed in schools. We do coaching for leaders and teachers. We carry out grants of various types. And in the weeks ahead, what I'd like to do is delve deeper into this subject to give you a sense of this wide array.
Another important part of CASDA work is the presentation of workshops and conference activities. This has been a traditional part of CASDA work since 1949 and its inception. For a long time, in past decades, this was our work. We were the premier provider of top quality conferences throughout the capital region, and enjoyed a reputation for doing so. In recent years, we have stepped up the amount of conference activity because there's so many important topics to consider, and at the moment, and for the last, say, 3 or so years, we've offered between 35 and 40 conferences per year on a variety of topics. They come in different formats: 2-hour, 3.5-hour morning programs, full day conferences. We keep our prices low to make sure that our members can attend, and by and large, they're on a variety. Our job is not to duplicate the kind of work that BOCES does or that the State Education Department does in supplying training about how to comply with new regulations. Our job, as we see it, is to go deeper, people come out of state ed trainings or BOCES trainings and say, okay, now I know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know how to do it. And CASDA workshops dive deeper, consider topics deeply, and we listen to our members and try to provide conferences to meet their needs. The conferences come from a variety of sources, but most of the time our faculty are the developers of these activities. This year, Jenny Horn is our full-time conference coordinator, and the process originates with her working on a conference development form where we consider why people should come and what they'll learn when they get there. We build the agendas, and from that, I, as the executive director, make a green light on proceeding in its development. It then goes over to Adam Rossi in the communications office for the development of electronic flyers. At that point, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to actually build an audience, and so we will advertise multiple times to a variety of audiences, and people respond. So what ends up happening is we are busy all 4 seasons of the year. We go fall, winter, spring, and summer, and probably average 8 to 10 conference activities in each of these seasons. Really very proud of our conference work, which is really signature work for us. Another important part and growing part of the CASDA program is our electronic outreach through distance learning. Not everybody in our region can come to our conferences because either their schedules don't permit them to take the time out, or they are simply too far away. And so what we have for the last 6 or 7 years, at least during the time that I've been executive director, we have experimented in different kind of webinar formats where we can reach people remotely. We feel that in doing so, we serve rural audiences. We can reach, for example, with distance learning equipment, with the help of the Northeast Regional Information System, with the Northeast Regional Information Center, we can reach all the way to the Canadian border. There are hundreds of small school districts that don't have many opportunities for professional development for their teachers and their administrators. And electronically, this seems to make sense. We have experimented and worked for a couple of years working through distance learning equipment and reaching distance learning classrooms. After kids have gone in the afternoon, teachers come in or administrators come in to the room, and we are able to beam to them. More recently, we've worked with the RIC, the Regional Information Center, on the use of the WebEx product, which instead of going through to distance learning classrooms, goes through the internet. And we began all through 2016-17 offering a variety of different 1-hour webinar experiences, which have the advantage of allowing participants to sit right at their desks and access them, and the ability to call up and repeat the viewing at a later date. So this asynchronous opportunity and its universal reach make really good sense to us, and we've had really good experience with it. Like conferences, we keep our webinar costs, the pricing low. This year, we offered our 1-hour webinars for $99 per site. This is very much a deal, and it's part of the bargain that we make with our member organizations. We are a nonprofit. We try to keep prices low, and so both with conferences and with our distance learning, we're in a break-even proposition. But we feel this is an important part of our work and probably infinitely expandable.
One of the aspects of our work is we coordinate college fairs.
Now, we started with just a couple of these. A fall one at Hudson Valley Community College was a traditional CASDA coordination event, which would bring 150 college recruiters from all over the Northeast to the Hudson Valley area, and where they were met by dozens and dozens of busloads of high school students who came to really have a very efficient way to get around and meet college recruiters from all over. And there were also evening sessions where parents brought their sons or daughters back for the same purpose. We did the same thing in the springtime, and we coordinated with the Capital District Counseling Association, and those were the first two that we began. After that, Betsy Shealy and Carly Connors began to realize there was an interest by large individual high schools to sponsor these kind of fairs in their high school gyms in the fall and in the spring. Well, this week, once again, we will, for example, this week, college recruiters, and again, almost 150 of them will be coming tonight. On the 11th, they'll be in Saratoga High School. On Tuesday, they'll be at Guilderland High School. On Wednesday, they'll be at Colony High School. The next night, they'll be in Shenandoah High School. So when the recruiters come, they want to stay for a couple of days and make their travel worth their while. And Betsy and Carly take good care of them and provide just really optimal circumstances. It's a win-win because the college recruiters really get to see a lot of prospective students very quickly. We will probably coordinate this year about 20 of these. We also reach into the Hudson Valley. We're the best provider of these in the Hudson Valley. We do Arlington High School, Kingston High School, Newburgh Free Academy, Monroe Woodbury High School, among others. We are able to convene regionally. People come from all different BOCES regions to CASDA events, and we have that ability to serve as a really effective convener. But over time, when we create and help sponsor professional learning communities for different kinds of role groups, we serve as a community developer. It's a traditional role for CASDA. As some of you know, I served as a graduate assistant in CASDA way back in 1982-83. And my job at the time was to coordinate such role groups that met monthly at CASDA, which included food service supervisors, transportation supervisors, building and ground supervisors, head bus mechanics, principals, and the like. And so way back, 30, 35 years ago, that was one of CASDA's roles. Today, we still do the operations and maintenance group. Ed Kohler coordinates that, and just last week we had our 64th annual maintenance conference. 64. If you really think about it, it's pretty amazing. And we take care of the group every single month. We also spend a lot of time working with school principals because they matter a great deal in terms of helping students and helping schools to be effective and helping students achieve the outcomes they need. Two different mechanisms we use. One, I made reference to the Principals Guild, which is a group of about 50 principals from all over the region. They come together to share problems of practice and to receive research-based content, and we co-sponsor that with Capital BOCES and with the College of St. Rose. For the last 30 years, CASDA has also been the home of the Greater Capital Region Principals Center Board. That's another, Nancy Andrus is the coordinator there. And we take good care of them. They give us the Principal of the Year award to work with. They sponsor, part of their mission is to recruit people to the profession, so we sponsor professional, prospective administrator conferences and the like. There are other groups that we take care of, like the athletic directors. Bob Stuhlmaker has them in monthly. That's a great PLC. And next year we hope to convene similar role PLCs, possibly technology coordinators, English language learner coordinators, and alternate education coordinators